Winding the clock back a few years, can you remember what you were doing in 1994? Gosh, that's a while ago, isn't it? In fact, it's 30 years ago. Something which I remember happened 30 years ago. There was an initial meeting of a group of guys gathering together to say, hey, what if as a group of Christian guys, we work together to be better men of God for our churches, for our families, and basically caring for and serving each other. It picked up from an idea which was happening in the United States at the time, an idea called Promise Keepers. 30 years on, Promise Keepers still going strong in Aotearoa, New Zealand. In fact, an event coming up quite shortly to celebrate 30 years of ministry. Joining me on the program is the PKNZ Director, Frank Ching. Frank, kia ora, good morning. Thanks for your time today.
Good morning, Andrew. Thank you for having me on your show. It's awesome.
It seems like yesterday there was a group of us that gathered together. I think it was... there was at Bucklands Beach in Auckland a few years ago, and my memory's a little bit cloudy going back 30 years. But talk to us about your involvement with Promise Keepers and the role that you do, Frank.
Guys, Andrew, you mentioned 94. I wasn't even a Christian then.
Yep.
3 years later, I became a Christian and heard about Promise Keepers. I think I attended my first Promise Keepers event in 98.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing the hundreds of men worshiping the Lord, old and young, old men crying or mature men crying at auditorium. I couldn't tell you where that was. I think it was probably where we're having the event next month.
Mm-hmm.
That really blew my mind because I've just come to the Lord. So, so it's been a long time. 30 years is a long time.
Yeah.
But it's nothing in the kingdom, right?
And amazing things have happened during those 30 years. You talked about the experience of being at a PK event, hundreds of men praising God together, and some wonderful teaching. For people that are perhaps new to the idea and are thinking, Promise Keepers, what does that mean? What's that all about? Give us a brief rundown of what PK stands for.
Well, Promise Keepers is really, I think you mentioned it in your introduction, started in the US. Just a football coach saw the need in his own players, or a couple of the players. And then in the locker room, started coaching them, mentoring them, and discipling them. And then that kind of grew to what we now know as Promise Keepers, from a locker room to thousands of men in big arenas, football arenas. And so the men who, the 30 years ago, Bill Sapritsky and his team heard about this, and he said, let's go over there and see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously picked up the anointing, came back here and pioneered Promise Keepers. So it's been going strong. Thousands of men have found the Lord, had their lives turned around, families reunited through Promise Keepers. So
it has produced tremendous fruit, and so many lives changed through Promise Keepers. And I know there'll be a few people listening at the moment that can remember Promise Keepers events that they've attended in the past. All about, I suppose, taking a stand, making a commitment for men to say, you know what, we're going to be faithful in these areas of our life, faithful to our wives, faithful to our children. We're going to support our local church, just stepping up in a few key areas of life. And yes, it's transformed lives, but I think the influence is bigger with Promise Keepers. For the people that have made those commitments, that have stuck with that program, not only their lives are different, but to their families, their co-workers, those around them, I suppose.
Well, God calls us to be holy, right? He calls us to be like Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in essence, Promise Keepers is not asking us to keep promises, because we know we can't.
Yeah.
But we walk with the Lord and to be transformed on a daily basis. And the work of Promise Keepers is really to walk along men who love God, but also want to be better in their walk with the Lord, to gain more knowledge and understanding and have this experience with the Lord. and also men who are really struggling to what does it mean to be a Christian, or from this spectrum to this end. And so Promise Keepers has worked in the past because it's all about. There's a misconception that Promise Keepers is about big events.
Yeah.
Yes, big events helps bring people together from different corners of our nation, but Promise Keepers is really about walking along the men in our community, in our local churches, to point them to God and serve our pastors, our local pastors, and our local churches. That's really the essence of Promise Keepers.
I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because I mean there is a big event coming up soon, and people will have memories of the big event. But it is the week in, week out. I mean we've had a season where having a big event has been particularly difficult, and I know that's affected the PK team as well as other organisations. But the opportunity to say, you know what, we can do this in twos or threes, or particularly fours. In fact, the four-wheel drive principle. This is something that Promise Keepers has pioneered. A wonderful way of encouraging men to go deeper with discipleship.
Yeah, I mean, I remember in my early days of being a Christian, sitting in the church, and I'm thinking, what is this? Hundreds of people in this church, and I'm thinking, what is this guy talking about? But what the preacher at the time was saying, we are right now in the locker room, and if I can use that analogy again, we are in the locker room. We are devising this plan so that when we go out there on the field, we know what we're doing, and we in confidence in the Lord. And so the event is but that it's nothing else but Lord, people coming together. And so this next month's event is really about seeing the hundreds of men coming together in one place, because post-pandemic, it's been challenging for not just PK, but even for the churches. And traveling around the regions, I'm seeing hundreds of men who say, Frank, when is the next big event?
Yeah.
When is the event? And so we thought 30 years of ministry in this country, what a great time to celebrate and come together.
And certainly a wonderful legacy to celebrate. I'm sure it's challenging for you and the team to go, so what could we choose? Who are going to be our speakers this year? There's been some tremendous speakers at PK events over the years. Talk to us about the lineup for the celebration event. Frank, who's coming to the party?
Well, we've got a really fantastic lineup. We've got Norma Cloud all the way from the East Coast, and Nick Tuatasi, who's really a furnisher of PK and just carries that with mana and honor, and a whole host of elective speakers that we've chosen. I think on Tuesday we're going to release the next promo with all of our elective speakers.
So stay tuned for details on that one. But hey, for now, let's get some dates in the calendar. When is this event coming up, and how can people find out more? How can guys get enrolled for this?
So if you go to promisekeepers.nz, all the details will be there. And it's on August the 9th and 10th. The 9th is a Friday night, not your usual PK. It's a smaller number, but that we still have some openings there to sign up. So go to that website and sign up right now. But really, that's going to be like an intimate sort of reminiscing and really celebrating what God has done.
It's kind of like PK reunion night on the Friday, isn't it?
That's a perfect description, Andrew. But really Saturday is where we're gonna really do some business and rejoicing in the Lord and really praying for each other. So the speakers, you're not going to sit there and listen to the speakers until the cows come home, but we're going to have a lot of time to interact and pray for each other. That idea of 4x4, we're going to, our wonderful MC who's going to be there, Andrew. I think you might have some idea who that might be.
Maybe involved with that,
yeah. So yeah, it's not going to be give it to me, but we're going to really have an intimate time to interact with each other.
It is a fantastic event, and I know a lot of people will be excited for this. The event happening in Auckland. The 9th and 10th, particularly the 10th of August, is the very big event. But hey, as you say, this isn't just about the events. People can find out more. People can connect with the Promise Keepers ministry. Promisekeepers.nz for all the information. And hey, don't dilly-dally on this one. Circle it on your calendar. Make sure that you book your tickets for this event. It's going to be absolutely fantastic, certainly a celebration of what God has done through this ministry for 3 decades and counting. Frank, thank you for what you do. Thanks for your ministry, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Andrew. A pleasure. Thank you.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.